Jake, you want to get us started?
Yeah, so I figured there would be two different trains of thought I can go with this. Either pick like the best player on the board right then and there that makes the most sense for the iconic pick, or kind of try to weed out some of the countries that have good talent but maybe not the best talent. So I decided to go with a guy that we're all familiar with, Hideki Matsui, capping off Japan real quick. If you look at his numbers coming out of NPB, he's just had an insane career. Like he started off as a power bat, but then he comes to New York City. He's one of the most durable Yankees that we've had in the outfield in a long time. Um, he came out with a bang, 16 homers, 106 rubies his first season, and then he just kind of kept it rolling from there. And he always performed big in the big moment. He was a playoff guy for us, year in and year out. So he's easily my first pick.
I think that's a really good pick. Um, we think about a lot of Japanese players who might have played for the Yankees. I think I looked up yesterday. There's only six.
Yep.
And then the entire list is Matsui, Tanaka, Ichiro, Hiroki Kuroda, Keigawa, um, and Irabu, with a brief stint on the Yankees. But historically we think of Japan as a baseball powerhouse, but really, um, it's just some of the top end players that have come over and really proven themselves in about the last 20 years. Ichiro, Shohei, and Hideki Matsui is really one of those guys who broke the mold, with Japanese players coming over, proving that they can play at this level. I remember him really fondly. He was a big part of my childhood, obviously a huge part of that '09 World Series team. Yeah, I love Hideki Matsui. That's a great pick.
So, Jake throwing a little curveball here. I thought you were setting all of this up to like go the opposite direction. I thought you were like, hey, you know what? Typically, this is what we do. So I'm like, oh, it's gonna be some obscure dude, like really curious, and Hideki Matsui. So a little bit of like Jedi mind tricks to start this draft off. Cool, cool. I
Trying to
wasn't
direct my own M.
prepared.
Night Shyamalan movie.
And then it's when you mention Natsui, the thing that sticks out to me immediately is Game Six of the Stadium in the 2009 World Series.
Yeah.
Like that was like not a better curtain call than that. So I gotta tip my cap. All right, now you really got me rolling up the sleeves, boys. I gotta see what Liam goes with now. Putting pressure on me, man.
Had to be the
I
table.
mentioned I have multiple monitors, and now you guys are like, all right, cool, it's on.
Putting them
ChatGPT
to
has my
use.
back.
I'll sweat a little bit.
So
Oh,
what's
okay. I see how you're
interesting,
you're updating this. Sweet. This is very
yeah.
helpful.
So I'm gonna highlight it in red, so that way it kind of takes it out like a dark red. So that way we know they're off the board.
Yeah, the visual is great.
Um, yeah. So what's interesting about Japan, more so than I would say most other countries on this list, with the exception of the USA, is that we have a pretty deep list for Japan. I think Masahiro Tanaka would have been a quality second pick if we were going too deep here. I think Matsui is ultimately the right pick, but you can look at Tanaka and his contributions to the Yankees, being huge. I think Tanaka is a bit unfortunate that his efforts didn't result in a championship. Obviously, I think we kind of feel that, but Masahiro Tanaka is one of the best playoff performers that we had in the past decade. And it was really often the team around him, even if Tanaka didn't have a great season, um, coming up with some clutch time in the playoffs. And then we have the legend of Ichiro. Obviously, he isn't known for being a Yankee at all. But yeah, I think Matsui is a chalk pick for Japan. But to go 1-1, I like where you're going. You're throwing us a curveball, putting it in our
Yeah.
court.
What can I say? But I will say that Tanaka, the fact that he was able to completely reinvent the way that he pitched after tearing his UCL in the middle of a season, second season in the US, he completely reinvents the way that he like learns how to pitch. Went from a power guy to like a finesse guy within half a season. So he created longevity out of something that could have been a devastating injury for him.
So I'm gonna jump to pick number two. Um, and Yeah, you put me on the not on the back foot. I mean, I think I'm gonna have to go with the US, but who I go with is potentially controversial.
It's going to be a controversy,
And
like no matter how you do it.
so there's one answer that most people will go with, and then there's two of my favorite all-time players who I'm between. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna pick Babe Ruth. I'm trying to figure out the balance of my team. You know what? I think I'm gonna go for Mickey Mantle for the second pick from the United States. Christian's giving wide eyes now for Mickey Mantle on the um
The Japanese equivalent of Matsui is probably Babe Ruth, at least today
yeah.
historically.
Stock loading that power.
So Mantle.
Yeah, so I this is just a taste pick, and I think Babe Ruth obviously has the more prolific career. He's the more of the all-time baseball great that you think. Partially is because I have another pick lined up later at the same position as Babe Ruth that I wanted to. Position doesn't matter for this at all, but I kind of aesthetically wanted to go a bit different. I'm also an outfielder, so I'm impartial to Mickey Mantle. Um, if you think of the modern era of athletes, I think Mickey Mantle kind of um is part of that transition into, what a baseball athlete really can be and what being very athletic on the baseball field does. He was a switch hitter, immense power, had an early injury when he was really young, and consistent top two MVP every year. You know, 500 homers from two sides of the plate. I think Mantle is really a transcendent kind of figure, and it even shows up in those poor like frame rate videos from the 1950s of him patrolling the outfield. To me, he's when I think of old Yankees that I didn't get to see, he's like the most fun in my head. So yeah, I think I'm going Mickey Mantle from the United States with my second pick.
And down goes Frazier. Okay. Knocked out the US. Pick number 2.
Clint.
Huh. Well, let me tell you. Okay. Okay. Well, I am actually not going in the direction that you gentlemen are going. I'm going to be different. So, part of the reason my favorite player is Juan Soto is the game I went to at City, and I was in I had outfield seats, and I wasn't sure who was at the plate, and this was before the Shoto Shuffle was like super common. I'm like, who is that kid? And then I realized, oh shoot, it's Juan Soto. Everyone, like, if you're in baseball and you follow baseball, you knew Juan Soto when he came up at what, 19 or 20, because Bryce Harper, whole kind of thing. When Bryce left,
Mhm.
he was basically coming up.
Yep.
So I knew of him, but I never saw him. So his whole swag in the box, the kind of demeanor, that presence resonated. I was like, I like him. That's my favorite player. That's it. Even if he's a scrub, but obviously he's not a scrub. Just turns out he's just like Barry Bonds. So it's fitting for me. So in that vein, I'm going with like a swaggy dude for my first pick. His stint on the Yankees wasn't that long, but it was fun. And he's a borderline Hall of Famer. I personally don't think he is, but his numbers kind of put him on the fence. I don't know what his numbers are in terms of writing the voters, but I'm gonna go with Bobby Abreu.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
great
That was
pick.
that was literally going to be my first pick if it wasn't for Hideki.
It's just so under the radar. He's like reminds you a little bit of Cano in that simplicity and that ease. And he had his own cool swag. I loved Bobby Abreu, dude. That was my guy. So rocking out with the swag. So that's pretty much the theme I'm gonna carry. I'm gonna look at, and it's gonna get tough because these older guys that you didn't get to play, you get a sense. So I'm thinking a combination of swag and grit is what's gonna direct my picks. I could change it
Swag
up.
to
It
grit
depends.
Bobby Abreu in his 2.5 years on the Yankees, and if you include the first half of 2006 with the Phillies, he had 100 RBI in each of his years with the Yankees. Never eclipsed 20 home runs, which is such a different, even for only 15 years ago, such a different ball player than you think about now. But the man slugged 40 doubles a year consistently, without fail. He was really fun to watch as a 3-hitter, pretty often in the Yankees lineup. He just felt like he was always going to get on base, find a gap somewhere, had that swagger, had that grit. And for someone who never won a championship, who only played 2.5 years, I think he's remembered as fondly as most Yankees are remembered. And Bobby Abreu, just for the record, is from Venezuela. So that brings Venezuela off the board. But Christian, I think that's a great pick. I like where we're going to start. We're really going different off the board.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the reason that I ended up ultimately picking Hideki is because I think me and Liam had the similar mindset to like try to go positionally. So I was like, I don't want to go after one of the big positions and just like cut it off right then and there. So like it was between Hideki and Bobby for me, and like they have very similar numbers if you're looking at their Yankee lore.
Yeah.
The dude is nasty. I mean, there's something about a 15 homer, 103 RBI season, 16-101 that is so satisfying, and then like 45 doubles on top of that. Like so good. And also, like, let's not forget what he did in the home run derby. I believe it was 2009, right? Or 2008?
2006.
Yeah. Disgusting. Like he had crazy pop. He could have been a 40 homer guy if you wanted to, but that's just like not his game.
Right.
He's the better version of like Luis Ariz if you want to compare him to like a modern baseball player.
Yeah, he's a professional hitter. Like Michael Young's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Young was hitting 4th for the Rangers when Josh Hamilton was on the team, and it's like, yeah, I appreciate those types of players. I wish I was a real life GM. That's where I'd spend my money.
Yeah.
Jake, you want to take us into pick number 4?
All right, pick number 4. Let's see.
Follow yourself up. Good luck.
That was a banging first round. I'm gonna have fun clipping this.